Peace. How's everybody doing? We ask you to comment, like, share, and subscribe to the channel. We are going to get started after this. Thank you. Peace. This may seem, family, like an unusual topic to speak on, but two things we want to talk about, if we will. And that is the matter of reaching out to our people and brothers and sisters to be a light to the people. It is not so much about the evolution, if we want to use that word, of the platform, of the channel. But what we want to do, family, is sit there and, for reference purposes, if we will, is bring, for the lack of a better term, if we will, our 2 cents into the matter and talking upon such. So, without any further ado, and giving honor to our maker, we want to sit there, brothers and sisters, and bring this out. And it starts off by saying, peace. How is everyone? Now, one of the reasons I want to say that I ask, how is everyone, is to find out how everyone is. And it also is a way to diffuse the negative energies or the negative spirit. And what do I mean by that? People who are, and I'm speaking in general, negative, dark matter, if you will, they do not like to be asked how they doing. People who are criminals do not like to be asked, quote, too many questions. People who don't want you to know certain things, whether they are criminal or not, do not want to sit there and be made to feel they're being, quote, questioned or summoned or anything of that kind of sort. They want everyone and everything to be quiet and have absolutely no kind of say, and so forth and so on. This presentation is brought to you by Danitepublications. We can be reached at 908-587-4841. I want to, brothers and sisters, take out the time to talk about something that I usually don't do, but, quote, at the job, something that happened. People may want a weak person and want to control a person's strength, like be strong now, be weak now, do this now, and so forth. Whereas you cannot fit a square into a circle. People are able to be who they are because he or she is gifted with such. He or she is able to do and deal, stay with such. That leads into what I was going to talk about. Last night, in what they will want to call New Year's, at a job, place is noisy. A situation happened where one of the coworkers mentioned something out loud that was false about that was currently going on. So I explained the situation in correct ways. This is not the situation here. The situation is here, and so on. This said manager decides it's a good idea to sit there and state, calling me, okay, I'm at the job by my government. The people were called and the thing is being resolved and so forth. What you didn't know, trying to be, quote, a leader in something that didn't need your guidance, that was already under control, because I'm one of the people that made a call about the situation being resolved. So I knew what was already going on. But you didn't know that. You didn't hear that part. Only thing your mind and attentivity was trying to sit there and control how someone is. So in other words, don't be but so loud, because things is being, there. Everyone in the current place knows that there's something going on that is not the best. People are talking about it. You want someone to be silent on it. You don't want someone to speak on it. You don't want someone to talk about it, because then it, quote, makes everything else look bad, Kind of like how a brother's been talking about how some of the congregations, no disrespect intended, are. We want you to delete that. We don't want you to talk about that. We want you. If you don't want to hear it, as the saying goes, if the heat is too much, get out the kitchen. Or if you can't stand the heat, get out the kitchen, kind of thing. You understand? But don't you ever try to tell somebody how to speak, how to talk. Don't ever sit there and try to tell somebody how to do what he or she does in his or own spirit if he or she is not incorrect. There are people who rather have misinformation out than to have correct information brought a certain kind of way. So I'm thinking to myself, like, wow, should I sit there and report this matter? Maybe. But come to find out, people who were around me hearing the situation in so many words told me that they're going to report it. And now if they report it, it holds more weight than I do as a worker in the place, as opposed to a person who is visiting the place. I get paid by being a worker in a place, as opposed to the people, brothers and sisters, who work and then go and contribute to being in the place to be there. There is a way of handling things, and everything didn't need to say be rushed and everything of that kind of sort. Now, I don't celebrate these nations holidays, but of course, when leaving after all of that foolery, you just can't fix your mouth to even say, Happy New Year, quote unquote. Couldn't even say it. I just sat there and watched and observed, because you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. You got 2 eyes and 1 mouth. So maybe we should see twice as much more than we speak, hear twice as much more than we speak. So there was no need then to go sit there and back and forth with the situation when others who knew what the situation was already spoke to a person about the matter. That other person, quote, being me in that particular case. How does this tie into what we're talking about? Is this. Okay, you're not a gold digger, but he should help. What do I mean by that? And naming the video as such. And how does that tie into what we're talking about? Because the modern terminology regarding gold digger is a person, preferably a female, who is just about getting money by any kind of means, could care less, and so forth and so on. Could care less about helping, so forth and so on. Could care less about contributing, so forth and so on. Be it financial, economic, social, spiritual, mental, or so on. You understand? You have people who are what you would call energy vampires, negative dark energy, if you will. See, and because one having that negative dark energy, that particular person didn't hear properly what was going on. Let's then say maybe an hour after all of that, one of the people in there who goes to visit the place and everything like that argued with the person who tried to sit there and make a complaint and argument. So there was no need for a brother to sit there and think to, quote, report it, because now you're definitely going to get a report made about it. See, with the lowly is wisdom. If you are, quote, a said manager, supervisor, you pull the person aside and try to sit there and talk things out and through. But you can't do that because you realize that one has a certain kind of spirit. We are told to be strong and of good courage. I remember, not being perfect, I remember people telling me, brother, when you talk loud with aggression. You talk. Keep your pantsy beta male voice on your platform and channel. Keep your scared to sit there and speak about a presentation on your own particular social matter. But you do not, brothers and sisters, sit there and watch from the sideline and then try to sit there and control the mechanisms in that case. I'd rather have less than have, quote, the wrong in my circle. I'd rather be correct for someone in their circle than to be a deterrent in one circle. And so now when you find people okay, give the 2-week notice. When you find people being okay, it's been real. I hope you have a good life and things of that kind of sort. That comes from a matter of knowing your position in your place. So all of that ties into what we want to present and what we want to talk about for this matter here. Okay, you are not a gold digger, but he should help. Some time ago, we spoke upon the matter of saying whether or not if a man wants to help, is he, quote, expecting something? Now, that could be taken two ways. If a woman knows what she can offer after accepting X, Y, and Z from a male, then she knows, okay, boom, you bought this, I can buy you that. But if her mind is not even on the economic matter, it is, he's going to sit there and want sexuality. He's doing all of this gift stuff. He's doing all of this because of that. Now, if she does not know her place, know where her value is at, she's going to think the lower term per se in that kind of matter. Wonder, why are you doing all of that? Because she knows she does not intend on giving anything else other than what she has been made to understand that she, quote, give as a woman to a man, so to speak. But now when we find things in which brothers might be saying, I'm not even interested in that, X, Y, and Z thing was done as a friend. Friend? Yes, friend. See, when our parents told us, I'm your parent and I'm not your friend, that kind of may have not been the best thing, because in certain cases, we growing up, 20s, 30s, and so on, may not even know how to be a friend, because in many cases, we were not shown it. It was, this is my rules in my house. I'm your parent. I'm not one of your little friends. So where was the point of reference or the pinpoint to sit there and state, this is what a friend does? This is what a neighbor does. This is what a loved one does. This is showing love, say, in that particular case, and so forth and so on. So what males have in certain cases developed is a female who wants X, Y, and Z thing has been called a gold digger. So what I did before this presentation was I looked up how is gold acquired. It is acquired by going into the earth, into the mountains, and things of that kind of nature, and digging it out by mining. You have to get a tool, sometimes mechanical they use, to dig into things in order to extract gold from the earth itself. It's a mineral itself. So when they had, say, in the 19th century, the gold rush, or you found a certain place in the ancient world where they, quote, found gold, you got to dig for that. That, we understand, may not be a bad thing. What males are saying when males are calling females gold diggers is the females who may not want to do anything in life and just sit back and pimp. We may want to properly call that males. Because see, a pimp who's a male, he doesn't give his quote unquote workers anything. They go on TV and even talk about it. They get nothing. I give them nothing. They give it all to me. So we as males may want to call the females, instead of gold diggers, we might want to call them pimps. She's pimping him or tricking him, if you will, you may say. We believe, and when I say we, we're talking, say, Danitepublications, is looking at a matter maybe a little differently. Can we agree maybe that calling a female who is not about anything in helping, in growth, and so forth and so on in a man's life, but expects and does take and accept X, Y, and Z, economic, social, financial, mental, what have you, never intends to reciprocate any of it, never intends to give anything back of it, can we properly call that particular person a pimp? Because when you watch, for instance, not to be redundant, pimp shows and pimpology, their thing is they have the woman, females out there, quote unquote, working. They get the money. Sometimes they lay with the woman, quote unquote, for free. And the quote woman gets nothing. She just goes back, here, daddy, here you go, daddy, and so forth and so on. So we want to present, and when I say we, I'm talking about this publication, Danitepublications. We want to present that the females who are called gold diggers might be called that incorrectly, and that they should be called pimps. They will sit there and have a man pay this bill, this, that, and the third, and don't even sit there and care to ever say, you have a good day, hope everything be well, or how can I sit there and be of any assistance? Because pimps don't sit there and do that for their quote unquote workers when they're out there in the street doing that. Women who are representing now, not being gold diggers, but being pimps, will have the man quote out there working and giving part of the check. She would never be his wife. She would never be even quote his side piece, and so forth and so on. So these are things that we want to sit there and care to bring out for reference purposes, if we will. We want to, if we will, not to be redundant, correct? Say that what and who is called gold diggers, and the way in which we as males mean it, might be much more correct to call those kind of females pimps, not gold diggers, because gold digging takes work. You have to actually put sweat and toil into it. You have to actually sit there and put work into it. You got to go mining. You might get a check out of it. You understand? So just looking at it like that in that particular case. This presentation is brought to you by Danitepublications. We can be reached at 908-587-4841. Let's look at such. Now, I had this meme made from my friend. It says, okay, you are not a gold digger, and that's talking about the way the terminology is generally used, but make sure the guy you are with would want your phone on and stomach filled. Now, that could sit there and be taken in different ways, whether he wants your light or whether he's sitting up there and able to help you out one way or the other. Maybe he's able to sit there and teach you a trade, even if he's able to sit there and be of assistance to the family, and so forth and so on. Let me get a little personal. I have a relative. Her ex-boyfriend, this relative of mine is now married. Her ex-boyfriend is a help to her current husband's cousin once it comes down to fixing automobiles. I want to explain what I'm saying. There's a female in my family who is married. Her ex-boyfriend helps her current husband's cousin once it comes down, them living in the same area and fixing cars. Now, if we as the people talking about, well, ex you can never have no communication with and do absolutely nothing with that is upright, well, we just cut ties all the way around the board. Now, how can this other brother sit there and get help and fixing automobiles? If she is that kind of controlling, like I'm going to sit there and block my family from getting help from an ex, though it has nothing to do with her, in that particular case, outside of just being maybe a connect for her flesh and blood to sit there, and does my flesh and blood too, to sit there and get help in that particular case. It takes a woman of wisdom, a woman who's mature, to sit there and not put her emotions and feelings to where now our cousin, who is expecting a child, can sit there and learn how to sit there and fix cars and can use it as a trade. See, now, if she was all in her feelings and things of that kind of nature, how could that brother man sit there and get help from a person who's her ex? Those two brothers, my cousin and her ex, are friends. One is able to help the other. Because her ex and her did not work out, does that mean that the cousin should not ever sit there and seek any wisdom and knowing how to sit there and get something done? This is the kind of dumb shit that as a people we do to sit there and block our growth. And then we sit back and say, we don't have this, we don't do that, we can't get this. We are the reason why we are behind. This is why one of the pet peeves for myself is when people try to say to a brother, no offense intended, not to be self-centered, you need to, slow down, brother. Oh, no. See, I got certain presentations on StreamYard and YouTube that are already backed up. Just using the internet and YouTube, for example. So just using that as an example, to sit there and tell someone to, quote, slow down, how are you going to tell a brother or a sister to sit there and slow down when we as a people, online or offline, got to do catch up? When many of us have bills, many of us went into this set new year with debt from last year. How can you, whether economic or educational, online or offline, financial or even deeper and spiritual, when we want to sit there and get our mind right, get it to where we want to be mentally well? How do we fix our minds to one another to ever tell a brother or a sister to, quote, slow down? We are the most behind people in many cases. The bottom of the totem pole, not to sit there and promote that idolatry. Because totem poles promote idolatry. So we want to sit there and be careful with that as the house of Israel. But when we read in our scriptures and it talks about you being the tail and not the head, how do we ever become the head when you got people saying that's arrogant? You're narcissist. You think it's all about you. You always talking about what you do. You always sitting up there trying to sit there. No. We need to remind ourselves of our own selves. Just as much as our book in the Torah, it teaches us what? Take heed to thyself. Hishamer laka in the Hebrew. If you are taking heed to yourself, you cannot mix that feeling with somebody telling you you need to slow down. How are you taking heed to yourself to be careful of yourself while taking heed to people who tell you to sit there and slow down? That doesn't make any kind of sense. That is not growth and development. So now, okay, you are not a gold digger. We want to emphasize what we want to bring into the world is that calling a woman who is about not doing anything, just trying to get a man for his money, just trying to get a man for his attention, just trying to get a man for his ideology, just trying to get a man for his spirituality. What many brothers, us as males, call a gold digger needs to properly, those women need to be called a pimp. Because gold digging is an actual legal profession that is not a criminal. Man, that is not a bad thing to do. That is not an effrontery to sit there and perform and do. They had a gold rush where many people went over to California back in the 19th century to sit there and legally go into the earth and sit there and dig out gold for themselves or for a corporation or for something of that sort. We talk about in America, the dollar falling, gold becoming higher. So there's nothing wrong. Pardon me, my family. Pardon me, brothers. Pardon me, my brothers. There's nothing wrong with being a gold digger because that is something that we may need for currency, come to find out. But if we think that a gold digger is one that is properly male or female, because you got males who are incorrectly called gold diggers as well from women, we have it to where they need to be called pimps, manipulators, users. That is something we need to sit there and talk about. Now, we're going to take a break for say about 5 minutes and be back. Thank you for that, family. Enjoy the music. We'll be right back. All righty, peace. We're going to continue, brothers and sisters, where we were talking about and so forth. All right. If I can be heard well and people are in good spirits, please type in the number 4. This is an unusual presentation, but just wanted to sit there and talk about it as the channel I would like to call, say, is evolving, if we will. All right. Shout out to BTV. I say peace back to you. And let us continue, if we will, in this manner. All right. We want to pull this back up. And so forth and so on. So let's look, if we will, family, right? We want to go here. A man wants to provide for a woman. Now, that is the real talk right there. From being a boy to growing into a man, I know, speaking of self, and I can say maybe speaking of other males as well, he wants to sit there and provide for her. Now, what some males do in order to get those provisions may not always be the most upright thing. And that's why we want to make sure what we do is upright and correct. Be you call yourself from the house of Israel or not. All right? I remember getting in trouble after stealing things to try to sit there and make sure when I was in elementary school that the girl I liked had ice cream. Instead of just asking for it or working for it or using a little bit of allowance or the allowance, let me say it like that, that I would get to try to sit there and buy the ice cream. I remember sitting up there trying to take the change and everything of that kind of sort. See, that was a bad way to say to go about something. But not minimalizing the bad way when doing that as a child, the goal was make sure she got something. I may get in trouble for it, but I'm going to try to sit there and make sure she see that I want to provide something. Of course, it didn't come out to the better way at the end. Why? Because of how it was acquired, because how you did it. All right? A woman looks for a sense of security from a man. I remember as I got older that I was told that a woman looks for a sense of security from a man. And certain aspects of that is, does he take care of himself? How does he take care of himself? What can he do for her mentally, spiritually, socially, economically, and so on? Now, one way as a male, be it you give, just use that as an example, $20. And let's say 2 days later, you ask for $2. If you get a nasty attitude behind that, not I don't really have it, you know what it is like that, let her go. Because a pimp will not want his or her worker to ever ask for anything. So if you have a heart, just using money, for instance, and say, here's $20 on quote Monday, and you ask for $2, say quote unquote Wednesday, and you as a man get a nasty attitude, a stink persona about it, let it go. Because that person, even if the person doesn't have it, you don't have to be nasty about it. You can simply state, ain't got it. Check me later. And so forth. If her heart is for you and wanting to help you, If her heart is not for you and wanting to help you, you're going to get that nasty attitude. I know of a situation, a male, hey, can you sit there and send that for me this way? And can you sit there and Zelle this? And can you sit there and Cash App this? And can you sit there and Uber Eats this? And no problem. It is what it is. Then when asking, well, can you sit there and do this and that? I'll do the whole thing. The only thing I want from you is something that costs a whole lot less. And let's see what happens in that case. You know what wound up happening? They don't speak no more. That was testing ground to sit there and see where one mind is at. In our records in the Apocrypha, it says test a friend to sit there and see where one mind is at. By doing that, you begin to sit there and see where one spirit is at in that particular case. Cut that energy off. When, whether economic, social, and let me explain social if I may. Correct me if I'm wrong, those who do know, right? When you are an artist, the Lady Rage back in the 1990s was a rapper. She was not given social promotion by the people with Death Row Records. And it hurt her in the music world. Meanwhile, she's on the Chronic album. She's on Snoop Dogg album. She's the only female in the group, correct me if I'm wrong, before Suge Knight got with some other lady that was in the group or whatever like that. But she was the first and hardcore female loyal to Death Row Records. And she spoke online, I'm talking about the Lady Rage. She spoke up online about how her album did not really do well because they did not give her the social promotion in it. So everything, quote unquote, is not $20 and $2. You understand? It could be I laid these tracks down. I put this song to the beat. Now, your job as a promoter and a producer after I did the work is for you to push and promote it. So she had to wind up leaving from that particular matter. Correct me if I'm wrong. Talking about social promotion. The rapper 50 Cent, to my knowledge, said that the rap group MOP did not have enough quote unquote sex appeal in order to sit there and to rock with him inside of a track and things of that kind of nature. While 50 Cent has put on many people from the game and other people and things of that kind of nature, one group, MOP, from out of Brooklyn, not that that is the most important thing, being out of Brooklyn, but I wanted to just pinpoint of who I'm and what I'm talking about. 50 Cent did not give MOP the promotion socially in that particular case. There was a time when the Wu-Tang Clan was not allowed to have this stuff played, brothers and sisters, on Hot 97. They were denied social promotion. I'm using all those different examples, be it the Lady of Rage with that, be it the Wu-Tang Clan, and no matter what happened with Hot 97 in the past, just to show an example of what happens when there's a lack of promotion and people already done sat there and put the work in. When you can sit there and be on the other aspect, somebody's ears. When you can sit there and dry somebody's tears. When you can sit there and hear them vent, pout, complain, bitch, and moan and groan about certain things, and you always make sure you're there. Call me if you need anything. I'll be your ears. That kind of matter. Then when you need something, it's like, well, the hell with that. You strong, right? You got it. That reciprocation, when it's not there, let it go. Because that is a person that is a taker and not a giver. When the world is based on give and take. Case in point. We breathe out, the trees breathe in, the trees give out, we breathe it in. Trees need us. We need trees. One cannot properly exist in good health without the other. Trees need us. We need trees. If one is denying the other, that's a problem. It goes into health matters. So when you talk about physical, mental, spiritual, economic, and so forth, what we're talking about is one helping the other. You understand? The Apocrypha, the Wisdom of Sirach, Ecclesiasticus, it says, test a friend and not be hasty to credit him. That can also be test a friend and not be credit to do not quickly to credit her. Test people, see how people move, and so forth and so on. And by that, you can sit there and see how one could and would sit there and deal with you. Don't always try to dominate the conversation, quote unquote. Be quiet so you can learn how people think. People reveal how they think emotionally, spiritually, mentally, by talking, by expressing. Brothers, give sisters that airtime. Sisters, give brothers that airtime. EAR, you will sit there and begin to learn a person much more than just, I'm going to use my third eye and I'm going to call, like it's a job, I'm going to call your ex and I'm going to call your family and I'm going to find out. No. Find that person out for yourself, not through his or her family, not through his or her job. That may not be the representative, for the lack of a better term, that you might be seeing. How he or she is at the job may not be how he or she is outside of it. How he or she is with family may not be how he or she is outside of it. They could treat family well, be the best employee, make employee of the month, make sure they're there a half hour early and stay an hour later, and make sure they take less time in their lunch and treat you like shit. So we cannot sit back and think that looking at it in that particular case is the way to go. I'm not a psychiatrist or psychologist. Want to know someone, however, listen to them. You'll learn. You'll see. You understand? If boys know that they're going to get in trouble from their mom and or dad for going to the level, sadly, of stealing to impress some lady at a school and she don't know how the young man got it, then we as grown men who are listening to this, who want to sit there and say, I'm going to sit there and just use that as an example. Get her hair done. Get her nails done. Take her out. Remember, being her EARS, her ears, and she talks about where she want to go. Surprise her, like, boom. Here it is in that particular manner. You understand? But let's just say something, for instance, as a phone bill. If you dedicate yourself, or if you that type, but like, you know what, don't even worry about it this month, I got you, and so forth and so on. And you cannot, as a man, get a text message, good morning or good night, let it go. Because see, what happens with that type of mentality is, oh, well, you did it for this. You didn't do it, quote, here's the bullshit. You didn't do it from the heart. No, I didn't just do it from the heart. I also did it from the pocket. I also sat there and made sure that I can sit there and quote, keep my word, and or if I did not give you my word, want to show you that you have a cover, that you have someone who wants to be there for you, even if it's a surprise. We as a people have forgotten that. When a woman can sit there and make a meal for a man that he didn't ask for, but she already being in his ears, she know what he likes to eat and she remembers it because he's important to her. So she's going to remember, having a mind and a memory of an elephant some women got. But if you never receive that kind of energy back, let it go. It's done. It's not for it. You can't sit there and make anybody change to be a loving kind of person. And when you coming from the heart, man to woman or woman to man, and the other partner does not, or the other party, may not understand why, let it go. Because that person, he or she lacks the understanding of the spirit of where one is at. I don't even know why. Why are you doing all of that? Why you did that? It's because I wanted to. I felt it was okay to do so. It was not to have leverage points. It was not to hold something over, quote, on somebody's head, but not to get too personal in anybody's business. When it becomes a thing where you are being man to woman or woman to man, once it comes down to you being asked to do something, and then when you ask for something to be done, and the person has it in their power and don't do it, let it go. The modern woman does not know when love is for her. And this is what we was talking about earlier. As far as it goes with knowing where one stance is, knowing where one mind is, say, in particular matter and in particular case. You understand? How can we, family, take on, as we talked about not too long ago, the quote unquote living single, I'm doing me, I don't need nobody mentality, right? How can that be? And still want traditional concern and respect. You understand? This is a far stretch what I'm going to say. The rapper 50 Cent got his name unbeknownst to Kelvin Martin, who was known in Brooklyn and other places as, quote, the original 50 Cent. And one of the things that they said about this particular criminal was one of the nice things he did was go and just drop off Pampers at somebody's house. Of all the things they say of the original 50 Cent, who was a criminal, who was not a good person in many aspects, one of the things they said that was good about him is that he would drop off Pampers. Why do I point that out as far stretch? People will remember the good things that you did, even if they highlight the bad things about you. So family, men, women, if you got a good mind and a good heart and a good spirit, don't take getting burnt by a man or a woman, hurt by a man or a woman, undervalued or not appreciated by a man or a woman to change your good spirit, because the good spirit you had before you met the person who disrespected, devalued you was already there. You came into that person's life, he came to her life, or she came to his life already being that kind-hearted, respectable, loving kind of person. Don't let a bad experience cause you to have that loving feeling to be dissipated. That is another thing that we care to sit there and bring out for reference purposes. The modern man does not know when concern is for him. What do we mean by those last two things there? The modern person, male, and a modern person, female, doesn't understand when to, in certain cases, be healthy selfish. She wants to help you, for example, with your resume, but you feel she's trying to be controlling. He wants to sit there and see that you're dealing with a financial, just using as an example, situation. You know what? I'm going to sit there and handle that bill for you. I don't need that. I'll go and get a second job for some nigga helping me. They ain't nobody going to sit there and hold nothing over me. I'd rather sit there and go and get my own resume, pay somebody else to sit there and do it. Yeah. See, that right there is some bum shit. Because what happens is you've already told your business or you've already told your situation to someone whom you didn't know had a certain kind of heart to be like, yo, wow, if that can be, let me sit there and do that in that particular case. Case in point. There are cases in which men have gone home and a woman has given him, that's not even his lady, could be a neighbor, a plate saying, here, this is just for you. It might be to promote her business and so forth and so on, which we want to sit there and talk about, if we will, testing a friend, not to get too personal, if we will. You have a business, male or female. Whether your business is thriving or it's not where you want it to be, either or, right? Somebody gives you a donation. You accept it. As I would say, being an author, if somebody, I'm going to be candid on this. Somebody bought 4 of my books, 2 of the history books, 2 of the Hebrew books. All they wanted, actually, was the Hebrew books. They didn't want the history books. They paid me for the full price of the history in the Hebrew books, but let it be known, all I want is the Hebrew books. So I accepted the other part as a donation. You do not. When you know you're trying to get your business up and off the ground and it's legal, it's not bad, it's not criminal, reject any donation. I remember situations where if the donation wasn't a certain amount, the person sat there and gave it back. But see, we already know ourselves in many cases that's Israel. So when it says test a friend to sit there and see what it is, I want to state this. That small donation you got was a way to sit there and see, would you accept the bigger purchase, not donation, but purchase that was to come the week after that. See, not to get too personal, my little princess we threw a baby shower kind of thing, which, not to be funny with many of our people, supposed to be for a child kind of thing, like for the baby, and it turns into a grown thing. You know how those kind of events go. So I made sure I put certain other kind of music. Okay, granted. I sent a small donation to test the spirit because I knew what you had was going to be loved by the people later who would have sat there and went and purchased things and told their peoples, their friends, and their associates about it. But you didn't have, speaking in general, that mind to sit back and say, I'm going to reject this small donation because you didn't sit back and think to see small donations can lead to big purchases. This is why we as a people stay broke. This is why we sit there generation after generation. It starts from little baby stuff like that. Generation to generation. In many cases, we find ourselves having to always start over. Economically, socially, and otherwise. In many cases, there is no land and houses left over. In many cases like that. So we wind up picking up the slack, picking up the baton, and so forth and so on, because we reject what we think is too small for us. Meanwhile, donation means you did not earn it. It's not something or was sent to you for you to sit there and give anything back. But you took out the time to sit there and give back, not the larger donation you first got, but the smaller donation, not knowing that that was a prelude to test your spirit to sit there and see about a bigger purchase to come, because I don't sit there and use those things you were selling, but I know people who do, like my daughter's friends' associates, like my daughter's aunt's children who know other people. See, that is the kind of stuff that we're talking about when we start talking about mental health and growth and development. We don't sit there and have those kind of things. If I can't sit there and get everything that I want, I'm going to say, fuck it, I don't want nothing. And that right there is not good. That right there is not growth of potential. You understand? As a person who is an author, I've gotten donations that was $5. I've gotten donations that was $50. I've gotten donations that were as high as over $100. Be it as small as, quote unquote, small as $5 or more than $100, I'm going to text back, thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you for the support. Because you never know if I needed that $5 to make 100. You didn't know if I needed that $2 to sit there and break even so I could sit there and buy something that I want. You didn't know what you did by helping in the next brother or sister. So these are things, brothers and sisters, that we care to sit there and talk about. We are blocking our own progress and blessings by telling each other as a people to, quote, slow down, one thing, to accepting being told to, quote, slow down as another way, and to sit there and being okay that if you don't compliment me the way I think I should be complimented, I'm going to sit there and say, forget it all the way altogether. That kind of spirit. Don't know who's hearing this, but a donation, was sent. And then a smaller donation was sent. And this is no dry snitching, because I told the person about this. Like, that small odd donation that you got, that you felt to send back, I didn't give nothing for you to send back. You thought maybe, well, I'm just sit there sending back. You ain't gonna sit there and play me. What you didn't realize is that I've never asked you to buy anything of your products, but my daughter would. My daughter's friends would, and I was having an event for her the next week. So when you got in your feelings, I promise you, it costed you sales. Like we always talk about sales and marketing. That's the dumb shit that we do. And I couldn't sit there and try to reach out because you blocked me after I sat there and spoke upon the matter. So that's that. I hope when we start talking about things like, I hope you well and everyone be better, those are the kind of things that we're talking about. So we won't do the same kind of chicken head dumb shit that we've been doing over the course from what year what to use. All right, let's look. Let us talk about a matter, question mark. Woman says, and I got this from just scrolling on the internet. Woman says dating a man that won't save you is a waste of time. Someone named, and I saw this online, independentdope.com, unique. Dating a man that cannot help you financially when you're broke is a waste of time. Now let's talk about this. We talked before about there are sisters talking about it's hard, the hardship is real, the bills, got to get a second job and all of that. But there's two things to point out, and it gets talk about politics, for instance. When women have been telling men, I'm living single, nigga, I don't need you, this is my couch you're sleeping on. When he's told that, when he sees his uncles go through it, when he sees things with his mother and father, when he sees things with his aunts and uncles, when he sits there and sees things with his older sisters and could be brother-in-laws, it kind of develops a certain kind of spirit. Now when Kamala Harris has to go, and no disrespect intended, or did go into a barbershop in the Bronx or wherever else to sit there and garner and gain votes from black males while promoting feminism, no disrespect intended, she was fighting an uphill battle because males, particularly black males, have been told for over 10, 15 years, he's not needed. He's not to be trusted. He's only worth what's between his legs and what's in his pockets. There are women married to men that don't sit there and bring their husbands to events because she thinks that he is not on her social ladder. I know who and what I'm talking about. There are women who are married, quote unquote, whole married or not, that will not bring the man that she's with, live with, and associate with to a certain kind of event because she feels he is not on her level. Living with the man, may even have children with the man, but I can't sit there and bring you there because you know you this or that. She does not think that say the highest of him in that particular case. And if you think that man is such a simp or a dummy to not realize how he's being viewed and treated, then you off, sister. So when the reciprocation, not to be long-winded, comes, using as an example of what really did happen in family, you go away with family, including his, and he goes away after because he's seeking peace. When she's being made to look like a fool in front of his family, disrespected and things of that kind of nature, and she becomes reclusive, there's a reason why. Or when he becomes reclusive, there's a reason why. And when you're dealing, quote unquote, with lower energy, if you will, we're going to have, quote unquote, make up sex and things of that kind of nature. That doesn't solve the problems in the upper head. That doesn't solve the situations that one has to sit there and deal with. Now, the opposite of all of that, not being a psychologist or psychiatrist, is when you have a power couple that changes things, when she helps him and he helps her. When she can be his ears and he be her ears. When she wants to talk and vent and he wants to talk and vent. It can be that. And it's not said to the other, you've been talking for an hour already. Word, it's been real. Thank you. I know I'm only worth an hour of your time. I know I'm only worth 30 minutes. You are timing me as if it is a job. This is not going to work. We have to sit there and be, as men to our women, and for the women to us as men, a spiritual guide and upliftment. There is nothing wrong. And this, I personally use this as a testing ground. There's nothing wrong with telling a fish that you swim well. People might think that's funny, but it's called encouragement. See, when you have women telling you that women in their family who are elders said the woman has the power to make or break a man, and you don't understand when one is saying there's nothing wrong with telling a fish that you swim well. Of course, a fish will swim well in its natural and strong state. What he is hearing from you, my sister, from you, my lady, from you, sisters, to us as men, saying a fish can swim well is you are in your strong and natural state. You got your fins, you got your scales. You know how to sit there and make moves happen. You know how to dodge obstacles. As the goldfish, you know to sit there and make sure you don't get eaten. The book of Lamentations in the Bible compared the sons of Israel as gold. Did you know that? In the scriptures, the children of Israel are compared to be like gold. So let's just say, for instance, the goldfish. When we can say you as a fish swim well, it doesn't hurt to say that. It doesn't hurt to encourage that. What we are hearing, sisters, when you say things that might seem silly to some, is we are moving like gold, making sure we don't fall in the trap by the bigger fish, that we don't sit there and get hurt by the bigger fish, that the traps that are set for us, we're able to have the wisdom to maneuver it and want to bring, say, something back home to the fold. These are things that we care to sit there and bring out and talk for reference purposes. The modern woman will sit there and feel that she don't, quote, need a man because she, quote, oh, I got my own money. I can sit there and do my own thing. Until them bills pile up, my man, my MAM. Until you got a dude that don't want to help. And that's what you, quote unquote, settled for. It could be anything from wanting to make sure you're not hungry. Did you eat? You good? Or, listen, if I got, you got, let me know I could be of assistance. But you best believe, without holding something over somebody's head, and if you want that to continue, and if you like it, then be reciprocating as well as taking and accepting. You don't ever, as a man or as a woman, take something and then tell the person, whatever the taking is, and then tell the other person, I never asked you for that. That's why people don't like, in many cases, that lady Jada Pinkett. I didn't ask you to sit there and do all of this stuff for me. So you accepted it, knowing where the person's heart was at, and we call that not a gold digger, but a pimp. You understand? So, if a man, my sisters, not speaking as a psychologist or psychiatrist, is feeling you, he's going to want to know how he can be in your life and of assistance. Men who are not in a certain way, shape, form, or fashion, who might have been hurt and burnt, if you will, he's not going to understand that song that came out in the 1980s. I'll wash your clothes. I'll cook your dinner too, as soon as I get in from work. I think the guy who sings it is the guy that was calling himself Babyface. That was a song back in the 1980s. I'll wash your clothes. I'll cook your dinner too. There's nothing wrong with doing that for your lady, my brothers. It doesn't make you a simp or anything like that. You bust your ass just like she bust her ass at the job. So why can't one sit there and do for the other? One of the things that I found in the younger generation, me being born 1980, and then there are those who are the younger generation that came from the 2000s and the late 1990s, is they reject the term of babysitting their children. Like, I'm not, even if they're not with the other person who's the other parent, I'm not babysitting my child. I'm watching my son or my daughter. You got to commend the people for saying that, because it's not babysitting, because babysitters get paid. So that's a job. That's an occupation. That could become a career. So that's different. It's not a job or a career to watch your children. It might be your occupation, might be your responsibility, but it's different. So these are things, wanting to point out things for reference purposes. Brothers, how can we tell, taking away the misused term gold digger for the proper term pimp, which is a woman who just wants to whatever she can get from a man without ever reciprocating. Is how you know, because she never wants to reciprocate it. It's not that deep per se. You understand? Here you go. This is for this, for that. If she thinking, oh, it's quid pro quo, I do this, you do that, that means she don't want to do shit, man. Let it go. Anyone who cannot sit there and benefit man to woman or woman to man, that's not healthy. What happens is that what the term that many sisters use is called their cup is being ran low after a while. They're not able to sit there and, quote, carry him and help herself and say that particular matter and say that particular case. You understand? And so these are things that we sit there and want to care to point out for reference purposes. Now, let us, family, talk about this if we will. Dating a man, we're not going to harp on date. It should not be date. It should be marriage. Before you get to marriage, you're engaged, and you got to find out what you're engaged in. Are you engaged in love, trust, respect, and upbringing each other, bringing each other up? Do you have the humility as a man and humility as a woman to sit there and allow someone to love you? I want to ask that again. Do you have as a man and do you have as a woman the humility to allow someone to love you, to let that love come in? Or do we, Israel, first and foremost, have the heart that is hardened like Pharaoh's heart? And you've seen what happened with the Pharaoh's heart, more and more plagues. Can we sit there and see that at hindsight? The harder the Pharaoh's heart was, the worse of the plagues got. So the harder heart we got, and not having a heart of flesh, but a heart of stone, like it talks about in Ezekiel chapter 33, make you a new heart, O house of Israel. First and foremost, before we present ourselves to the people, our people in general, we have to sit there and work upon that in that particular case. Do we happen to sit there and have that, or is it, Shalom, my sister, how you doing? I said, Shalom, sister, how you doing? You know I say Shalom unless it's the Shabbat? Yisrael, ani medaber lachem. I'm speaking to you all. You understand? Do you not know how to say Shalom one to another unless it is the Shabbat day? Because now what happens, O house of Israel, is we begin to look religious. When you read in Jeremiah, is Yisrael a homeborn slave? I'm at work. I am at work. Motherfucker, you could have sat there and quickly just said Shalom in between that. I'm busy. You never know if you needed that spiritual word of Shalom to be imparted to you. But when you have the heart like the Pharaoh did and hardened, it becomes worse and worse. Israel, we lost our land according to the book of Zechariah because it says we made our ears stop up and our heart as an adamant stone. Therefore, a whirlwind came upon out to Israel and scattered from one end of the earth to the other. When you read in Israelite history, for instance, my brothers and sisters of the house of Israel, right? And you read about the second kingdom, the second temple. Let me say that. Because there was no Israelite kingdom when Media Persia was there, when Ezra and Nehemiah and the temple was being built and was achieved in being built. Right? You had it to where, most of the crimes that was spoke about in Malachi, Ezra, Nehemiah, Zephaniah, Ezra, Nehemiah, Haggai, Zechariah, and Haggai, all of that was mainly about how people dealt with people. Like in Zechariah 7, we just mentioned, you made your heart as an adamant stone. So now we might have forgotten, using that as a premise that and as a guide, that gold digging itself is not bad. You have to dig for it in order to achieve it. What we should call those kind of women and men, instead of gold digging, we should call them what they are, pimps. Just want to point that out as an example. So, the Apocrypha teaches us, know to who you give to. Don't be on some free willy-nilly, hey, I'm a dummy, I'm just giving things out like that. Know to whom you give to. You understand? And you can always tell when one is, yes, worth it because he or she will want to have it reciprocated. You understand? We pointed out earlier that women look for a sense of security. Now, there are some SIP men, SIMP, whose sisters will never reciprocate the love of, I'm going to put a ring on it, as the saying goes. I'm going to wife that. We're going to get our place. We're going to do this, and that kind of nature. Those are the kind of men that I'm talking about right now that would sit there and bash other men for, quote, taking his time, if you will. Let me explain what I'm talking about. Men online or offline that are saying, women, if you're paying for anything when you're with a man, that's not really your man. You are roommates. First off, that's the kind of spirit of a man that will move on another man's woman. That right there is just trifling right there. But with the modern woman, listening to the wrong man, listening to people online who may not have your best interests at heart, will sit there and allow that kind of poison to sit there and take over and manifest. It says the wise woman builds her house, Proverbs 14. It says the woman considers the field and buys it. That means, yes, a woman does have, say, her own. But brothers, if she is worth it to you and she needs help, help her out. There's no reason why you're spending time, spending energy, spending whatever in the world, and then she goes back and don't have nothing to sit there and eat. As I remember pointing out, not saying I even got it the best way even as a child. I'm going to make sure the girl I like eat. I'm going to get this ass whipping later when I get in for stealing the money. I'm 8, 9 years old, but she good. I wasn't good, but now that we're older and we can see the beginning and the end of a matter in certain ways, you work for it and then you provide for those who are, yes, deserving of it. This is why we cite the Apocrypha on this platform when it says no to whom you give to, because everybody, woman to man or man to woman, ain't worth it. And how do you know whether he is not worth it, sisters, or whether she is not worth it, brothers, is when you might be testing or want something or could really be in need of something and that person says fuck you. That is when you know he or she ain't shit for you. And concluding this, we're going to have a presentation coming out. Says, were the beast in Daniel 7 representing the empires of the ancient world excluding Rome? No. According to Maurice and myself, the beast in Daniel 7 represent the Babylonian, Medo-Persian, Greek, and Roman empires. Join us as we delve into the matter of Daniel 7 and the beast in history and prophecy and how it relates to the Israelites. Well, I did say relegate on the thing, but I meant to say relate. But nonetheless, you can go this coming Saturday, which is the Sabbath, June 4th, 2025, on the platform Mora Yeshaya History Lessons. Care to donate? Cash App, $ More23. $MOREH 23. All right. So we hope and pray that everybody is well and will be better. I am open again to constructive criticism. This ends the presentation. Thank you for that, family. Shalom, my brother, Saliyah Benya. Thank you.